basic organization of the bones and the cartilages. The bones are the and cartilages both they form the supporting and the protecting soft tissues. That is, their function is to support and protect the soft tissues, and again serves as an attachment site for muscles, making movement possible. It is a site for the storage of minerals like calcium and phosphate, and maintains the homeostasis of the bone. The blood cell production occurs in the red bone marrow, which is the process which is known as the homeostasis. Energy is stored in the yellow type of bone marrow. So I think you can all recall from your previous knowledge that we have two types of bone marrow, the white, red and the yellow marrow. The parts of the long bone that you have are the diaphysis and the epiphysis, and in between the two you have a small area which is known as the metaphysis. So epiphysis is the one end of the long bone, that is the expanded ends of the long bone, which forms a joint and articulates with another bone. The metaphysis is the growth region of the plate where the growth of the bone takes place, whereas the diaphysis was the shaft of the bone. Now the articular cartilage covers the joint surfaces. Now these are the joint surfaces where you have the formation of the joints, which acts as friction and shock absorber. The medullary cavity is the marrow cavity. Now you have two parts of the bone, which is the periosteum and the endosteum. The periosteum is the tough membrane or the outermost covering of the bone. Again, the periosteum has two parts, that is a fibrous part and the cellular part. The fibrous part is towards the exterior, whereas the cellular part of the periosteum is in contact with the endosteum. And endosteum, again, the endo parts of the endosteum also present along the area where you have the central cavity of the bone or the marrow cavity. Projections of the bone called processes provide sites for the attachment of the ligaments and the tendons. Grooves and openings in the bone serve as passageways. So you again you had those nutrient passages or the foramen for the nutrient arteries. So similarly, we have certain grooves and passages which are openings for the blood vessels and the nerves. Coming to the structure of the bone, that is a compact bone or any other type of a bone that you do, a type of a connective tissue which is seen by widely spaced cells. Now the bone is formed by matrix, which is 25% of water, 25% collagen, and you have 50% of it being formed by the hydroxyapatite crystals. Then we have four type of cells in the bone forming the structure of the bone, that is the cells. The initial cells in the lineage of the bone formation are the osteoprogenitor cells. From the osteoprogenitor cells, we have the other cells arising, that is the osteoblasts, the osteocytes, and the osteoclasts. The osteoprogenitor cells are the cells, the mesenchymal cells, which are the undifferentiated stem cells, which can divide to replace themselves and can become the osteoblast, found in the inner layer of the periosteum and the endosteum. The osteoblast, that is the rapidly dividing cell which forms the matrix and the collagen fibers, but it cannot build new bone. It's not dividing. Sorry, ye thoda yahan pe change mistake. Osteocytes are the mature cells that no longer secrete the matrix. So these are the mature cells. I'm not being heard. Now, can you hear me? Just let me know. Others can listen. So you better, then it must be some problem at your end if the others can listen. Please check your headphones connections, please. Osteoclasts are the huge multinucleated cells. The functions of the osteoclasts are in the resorption at the surface of the endosteum, and it may cause it produces the breakage of the cell. Other than that, during excessive activity of the cells, when the more bone structure is being formed, the osteoclasts, they come into action and then they reshape the bone. The matrix of the bone, again, we have two parts, that is the inorganic part and an organic. The inorganic is the mineral salts, which provide the hardness to the bone and resilient to trauma or to crushing, which is the oxyapatite crystals form, and which is calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate salts. The organic part is the collagen fibers, which provide the strength and the flexibility to the structure of the bone. The tensile strength resists being stretched or torn. And if the minerals, that is the inorganic part of the bone, is being removed with treatment to acids, the remnant structure of the bone, it becomes rubbery. The calcification is the hardening of tissues when mineral crystals, they deposit around the collagen fibers. The bone is not hard or completely solid structure, like it's not the hardest structure, because you have certain spaces. So a trauma can cause a breakage in the bone. The structures or the spaces are due for the passage of the vessels and the bone marrow. So the wall of the diaphysis of the long bone is composed of tightly packed tissue called the compact bone. Okay? The epiphyses are composed of spongy bone with thin layers of the compact bone present onto the surface of the bone. Coming to the histology of the compact bone, the basic unit of a compact bone is the osteon, which consists of the concentric rings, also known as the lamellae. Now, these are the concentric rings of the lamellae, which are built along the the blood vessel. But I have allowed everyone in the meeting. Nobody is being held back. Everyone is there. I have not put a lock on against anyone's name. So the waiting, you can all enter the meeting. Now coming back to the osteon, it consists of the concentric rings or the lamella of the calcified matrix surrounding a vertical oriented blood vessel. The osteon is built around the blood vessel where you have the Haversian canal or the osteonic canal. The osteons give bone its structure. The osteocytes, now again, we'll move back to the previous diagram where we have now each of this concentric ring has a number of osteocytes arranged concentrically, and the osteocytes, they communicate through the canaliculi, which is filled with the extracellular fluid that connect one cell to the next cell. Okay, so the interstitial lamella again is another structure which is within the compact bone, and it represents the older osteons, that are the osteons which has reshaped or reformed itself, regressed and left behind. So interstitial lamella, which represents the older osteons that have been partially removed during tissue remodeling. Now, coming back to the previous diagram that we have, this is so the parallel running canals or channels within the compact bone, which allow for the passage of the blood vessels and the nerves, are known as the Haversian canals. The two Haversian canals are at right angles to each other, are being connected to each other by another canal, which is known as a Boakman's canal. Now, if you see this concentric arrangement of the osteocytes around this canal where we have the blood vessels, has a number of osteocytes. These are the osteocyte. Each osteocyte, it resides within a lacunae, and the external processes that arise from these osteocytes are known as the canaliculi. So coming to this diagram, you see a number of osteocytes being connected to each other via the canaliculi. Spongy bone, which is also known as a cancellous or the trabecular bone, is a highly porous type of a bone, vascularized, and contains red bone marrow. Now, the spongy bone is usually located at the ends of the epiphysis, with the compact bone at the periphery. Other areas where we have the spongy bone are the vertebrae, the ribs, the skull, and the bones in the joints. The spongy bone is softer and weaker than the compact bone, but is also more flexible. It's characterized by a lattice-like matrix network or the trabeculae. So this is how you have the gross appearance of the spongy bone. And these hollow spaces are where we have the bone marrow. Who has not been admitted up? I don't know where the problem is being created, because if you can see my screen, all are being allowed in the class. So please don't keep on sending me the message to let anybody in the class. All the embryonic connective tissue, that is the development of the all embryonic connective tissue, it begins as a mesenchyme. Intramembranous bone formation, and we have the other type of bone formation is an endochondral type of bone formation. The intramembranous bone formation is that the formation of bone directly from the mesenchymal cells, whereas the endochondral type of formation of bone is where you have a basic structure present as a hyaline cartilage, and it leads to the formation of bone. The intramembranous bone formation, this is the diagrammatic representation how the mesenchymal cells become the osteoprogenitor cells and then the osteoblast. Okay, so you have these mesenchymal cells which become the osteoprogenitor cells, gradually becoming the osteoblast. They surround, that is osteoblast, they surround themselves with the matrix and become the osteocytes. So this is the second step. You have the development of the ossification segment. That is the osteoblast, they secrete the organic extracellular matrix. The osteoblasts, they surround themselves with the matrix and become the osteocyte. Now this is the osteoblast becoming the osteocytes within the lacunae. The matrix, it calcifies into the trabeculae with spaces holding the red bone marrow. So this area, the lighter stained area, the lighter colored area is what becomes the matrix, and it gives you the spaces holding the bone marrow. This is the hollow spaces being formed by the matrix. The mesenchyme condenses as a periosteum at the surface of the bone. Superficial layers of the spongy bone are replaced by the compact bone. So this is how you have the general organization of the formation of a compact bone. That is, first you have the mesenchymal cells being differentiated into the osteoprogenitor cells. The progenitor were the primary cells which give rise to the osteocytes or the osteoblasts. So first you have the mesenchyme forming the osteoprogenitor cells. The osteoprogenitor cells will form the osteoblast, and gradually the osteoblasts, they differentiate. So the blast-like cells will be at the periphery, and what you have remaining will be the the osteocytes, and these osteocytes will be within the lacunae. The matrix will be formed at the periphery or in between the osteocytes, which holds the bone marrow. As the bone develops, the full development takes place towards the periphery of the bone, we will have the periosteum. The second type of ossification was the endochondral type of ossification, where you have a basic structure of the hyaline cartilage, and gradually it leads to the formation of the the compact bone. So as the cartilage enlarges, now this is the diagrammatic representation, and I think this is enough for understanding the basic concept of the endochondral type of ossification. As the cartilage enlarges through the positional growth and the interstitial growth, now there are two types of growth taking place both in the cartilage and in the bone, that is the positional and the interstitial growth. Positional will be towards the periphery or towards the side, which increases the dimension, the breadth of and the height of the bone, and the interstitial growth will be within the substance of the bone. So the chondrocytes near the center of the shaft of the cartilage that you have increase greatly in size. The matrix is reduced to a series of small struts that is again lacunae-like appearance. A trabecular-like appearance. Then large chondrocytes then die and disintegrate, leaving cavities within the cartilage. So this is how you have the cavities being formed within the cartilage. Now the blood vessels, they grow around the edges of the cartilage. Now this was the initial structure, which was the hyaline type of a cartilage, where the blood vessels which grow around the cartilage entered through the smaller foramina within the structure of the bone. So the blood vessels, they grow around the edges of the cartilage, and the cells of the perichondrium convert to the osteoblast. The shaft of the cartilage then becomes ensheathed into a superficial layer of bone. So we have, with the formation of the periosteum towards the periphery, you will have a thin plate of bone being formed towards the periphery, and gradually these blood vessels which form towards the onto the surface of the bone, they start to enter into the bone. Blood vessels penetrate the cartilage and invade the central region. The fibroblasts, migrating with the blood vessels, differentiate into osteoblasts and begin producing spongy bone. So this is where you have the activity of the osteoblast brought about by the fibroblasts, which had entered along with these type of blood vessels, and begin producing a spongy bone at the primary ossification center. So towards the shaft of the bone, you have the primary ossification center, and towards the periphery or at the epiphysis, we have the secondary ossification centers. The bone formation then spreads along the shaft towards the both ends. Remodeling occurs as the growth continues, creating a marrow cavity. The bone of the shaft becomes thicker, and the cartilage near each epiphysis is replaced by the shaft bone. Okay, so this is how you have the appositional growth, that is the cellular element which will grow towards the ends, and this is the central area where we will have the interstitial growth taking place. Take the growth in length of the bone, that is the epiphyseal plate or the cartilage growth plate exists between the primary and the secondary ossification center. Again, the shaft has the primary ossification center, whereas the secondary are towards the epiphysis, where we have the bands of the cartilage. As these cartilage cells grow and divide, the bone grows in length. So this is the area where we will have the activity of these osteoblastic and the osteocytes taking place, such that the bone grows in height or length. The cartilage cells are replaced by mitosis on the epiphyseal plate, and gradually you will have the replacement of the destruction of the cartilage cells and being replaced by the bony cells. The height or the length of the bone is said to grow around, to keep on growing till the 18th to the 25 years of life. But in some individuals where these that is the growing end, where you have they unite or they fuse together, when this union takes place, this is the time, this will be the time when the increase in height no longer takes place. Secondly, in young children where the union of the epiphysis with the diaphysis had not taken place, the metaphyseal plate, it mimics a fracture if the X-ray is taken at the age when the closure of these plates has not taken place. The growth of the bone is the positional type of bone at the bone surface. So now these are the osteocytes. Now what happens is that the periosteal cells, these are the cells at the periosteum, will differentiate into the osteoblast and form bony ridges. These periosteal cells will differentiate into the osteoblast, and they will form a tunnel-like structure, or they will unite together, meet over a blood vessel. With the formation of these closed compact structure around the blood vessel, you will have migration of the osteocytes towards this concentric structure, and gradually an osteon will be formed. And that is the how the interstitial growth of the bone takes place. That is, the breadth of the bone takes place. The factors which affect the growth of the bone are the nutrition, the levels of the hormone, and among the hormones we will have the sex hormones also. So for nutrition, you have adequate levels of the minerals and the vitamins. For example, calcium and phosphate is required for the growth of bone, vitamin C for collagen formation, vitamin K and B12 for protein synthesis, vitamin D for calcium absorption. Hormones, that is, during childhood, we need insulin-like growth factor, which promotes the cell division at the epiphyseal plate, and the human growth hormone and thyroid and insulin are required for the growth of the bones. Then again, a growth spurt and closure of the epiphyseal plate. For that, we need the steroid hormones, and estrogen has a specific role in the growth of the bone. That is one of the reasons that the females, they have a wider pelvis, because of the estrogen receptor, more estrogen receptors in the female. Under the hormonal influence now, if the human growth hormone is excessively produced, it will produce a condition which is known as gigantism, and under secretion will lead to dwarfism. Both men and women that lack estrogen receptors on cells grow taller than normal. Estrogen is responsible for the closure of the growth plate. So now coming to the second part, which is the cartilage, which is again a specialized type of a connective tissue, contains both cells and the extracellular matrix, devoid of the nerves and the vessels. And in certain areas of the cartilage, we do not have the perichondrium. So the perichondrium is the outer covering of the cartilage, but not all cartilages, they have the perichondrium. Now, this is the diagrammatic representation where we have different type of cartilages. Basically, you have three types of cartilages, that is the hyaline, elastic, and the fibrocartilage. The components among the ground substance, you will have the hyaluron, again hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate and keratin sulfate, and the collagen is the type 2 collagen. Now, these are the three types of cartilage as seen by a H&E type of staining: hyaline, elastic, and a fibrocartilage. It's said that the fibrocartilage has intermittent characters in between that of a hyaline and an elastic cartilage. The hyaline cartilage, when as seen under the microscope, has a glossy or a glossy appearance under the microscope because of the difference in the similar refractive powers of the fibers and the cells. That's why it gives us a glossy appearance. The location of the hyaline cartilage are the joint surfaces, the ribs, the nose, larynx, and trachea. Now, one of the feature, again, the microscopic feature of the hyaline cartilage is the presence of the chondrogenic perichondrium towards the periphery. And within the matrix, we have a group or the chondrocytes, that is the cartilage forming cells. The mature ones are towards the central part. Now, these chondrocytes at certain areas, they are grouped together, which is known as isogenic group. And the isogenic group are composed of 4 to 6 chondrocytes united together. The matrix in which they are present are known as the territorial. That is, when you talk of the isogenic group, the part of the matrix between the isogenic group is known as the territorial matrix, while at the periphery or between the two groups, if we take this one as to be a one group and this is another isogenic group, in between the two groups, the clear matrix that you have is known as the interterritorial matrix. So the hyaline cartilage is avascular. The extracellular matrix of the hyaline cartilage is homogeneous, glassy, rich in fibrils, which is type 2 collagen, and aggregate complexes which bound with water. The extracellular matrix has less collagen and more proteoglycan. That is why we have the differences in the staining. Immediately around the Lacani, this is the part which is known as the Lacani, producing slight staining differences in this territorial matrix. So the territorial matrix is slightly darker stain as compared to the interterritorial matrix. So chondrocytes occur singly or as in a small mitotically active isogenous group. Again, the isogenous group have from 4 to 6 chondrocytes grouped together, which are known as isogenic groups. Perichondrium is usually present, but not at the hyaline cartilage of the articular surfaces. So again, the perichondrium is present along the hyaline cartilage, except for the hyaline cartilage at the articular surfaces or the epiphysis of the long bones. The elastic cartilage. Now the elastic cartilage will again have chondrocytes present in singly or in groups, but you will have a random arrangement of elastic fibers. So it's again avascular, surrounded by the perichondrium, consists of or surrounded by territorial and interterritorial matrices. So the darker one is the territorial, and this is the interterritorial matrix, contains type 2 collagen interacting with proteoglycans and elastic fibers. So the one other thing which is in excess as compared to the hyaline cartilage was the presence of elastic fibers. Now this darker wavy appearance of fibers are the elastic fibers. Usually a special type of staining is used to highlight the elastic fibers. With the presence of the elastic fibers in the elastic cartilage is what increases the flexibility of this elastic type of a cartilage. The location of the elastic cartilage is the Eustachian tubes, the ear pinna. So these are some of the structures where you have the elastic type of cartilage. The fibrocartilage is intermittent between the elastic and the hyaline cartilage. So the fibrocartilage contains varying combinations of hyaline in small amounts of dense connective tissue. It's in between the two. Histologically, it consists of small chondrocytes within the hyaline matrix, usually layered with larger areas of bundle type 1 collagen fibers and scattered fibroblasts. So this is a diagrammatic representation, and this is the microscopic representation of a fibrocartilage. And fibrocartilage, you will see groups of chondrocytes, and in between, which will be running parallel to the fibers, that is the collagen fibers. So there's a proper arrangement or a uniform arrangement of the chondrocytes along with the collagen fibers, whereas in the elastic type of cartilage, the fibers and the cells were randomly arranged. Provides very tough, strong support at the tendons insertion and in the intervertebral disc and certain other joints. Again, generally it is avascular, and it also lacks the perichondrium. Location of the fibrocartilage is the intervertebral disc, the menisci, the temporomandibular joint, sternoclavicular joint, and the pubic symphysis. So that's the end for today's lecture. Thank you all for being part of the class. Thank you.